Okay, we're live, right?
Are we alive? Hi,
Yes.
how are you? So,
Welcome to Black VegFest Breakout, episode 21.
the Afro Latino experience.
That's
we kicked
right.
Wale out and we are going to discuss Afro Latinos and Black Lives Matter and the movements and how we can marry the two, or we're already married.
Yeah,
So,
and talk about colorism because that's a huge issue that I'm seeing. I mean, I guess now that I'm older, growing up, we see a lot of this stuff happening in little places. And now, as we are old enough to be in protest and movement, it's really showing its ugly face. And we need to discuss it and discuss the pros and cons and all these things and why.
Absolutely. So, we like to introduce ourselves. My
Yes.
name is Stephanie. I'm a Dominican Trini mix, first generation American. I'm a Black Veg Fest organizer, a tenant organizer as well. And this is
Jillian Mariscal. I am Panamanian Puerto Rican, born here in the States, and first generation. I'm also part of the Black Veg Fest organizers and as well as Sabrosa Vegana chef and owner.
Yes, so we're here to take questions. We're here to discuss the Afro Latino experience. We're here to discuss the importance of recognizing the Latinos and their part in the African diaspora, as well as how we can coexist in the Black Lives Matter movement. So, yeah, I'm ready. I'm going to talk about my experiences, et cetera, et cetera. And we also want to mention a couple of things.
Yes, announcements.
Yes, we have Unity March, a Solidarity March, June 14th, which Black Veg Fest will also be distributing vegan food. So
this is in Harlem.
Yes.
Right.
So we're looking forward to having you come by. If you want some information, please take a look at our website, blackvegfest.org. Follow us on IG, Facebook,
and YouTube.
Did I forget anything else?
Twitter, I think we're on, right? I think it's
Yes.
Twitter.
Okay. Awesome.
We're gonna have all the protest information there, but save the date for June 14th. We're gonna be there. We're gonna be doing food distributions. This is more for that's. I think it's a Latino march as well. There's not gonna be a lot of support there.
It's I'm gonna read exactly what it is. Actually, give me 1 second to open it up. It is.
I just want to say hello to everybody who's joining us right now. This is, again, Stephanie Jillian from Black Veg Fest.
Awesome. So I'm going to talk about the solidarity between Latinos, Latinx, African diaspora. Say I present this March, June 14th, gathers at 1 p.m. in Mitchell Square Park. And we will be distributing food there, so look for us. We're marching through Harlem and ends in East Harlem at the People's Church on 111th Street and Lexington Avenue. So we hope to see you there.
Yes.
So,
and we're gonna say it in Spanish now. My Spanish is not so good, and we'll talk about that later. Why and why?
I did. Okay.
But
so
in Spanish.
Solidaridad, right? I said it right.
Yes.
Solidaridad entre Latinos, Latinx y la diáspora africana, dice y presente, la gente pobre y trabajadores se levanta contra el terror y racismo. En marzo habrá, Jesus, my Spanish is slaughtered. Comienza el domingo 14 de junio a la 1 y nosotros nos encontramos en Mitchell Square Park. Nosotros vamos a caminar por Harlem y terminamos en el barrio de la Iglesia del Pueblo. I hope y'all understood that, because my family understands my Spanish. I don't know if everybody else does.
That's what my family says too. I talk the worst Spanish, but they're like, I understand you. I'm like, but correct me. And whose fault is it that I don't speak good Spanish? Like, but that's also part of colorism as well. I believe that's we're going to talk about that.
There was a march that happened yesterday at City Hall, right? The City Hall, this is the March with Families that happened yesterday at City Hall. It was a historical march at that. Black Lives Matters, march with the families of the people who were murdered by NYPD. And it was an historic march. Happened yesterday, 4 p.m. at City Hall. And it was organized by the families of Delon Small, Chantel Davis. I can't.
Yeah, you're right.
Sorry, my eyeballs. Sean Davis, Anthony Baez,
Sean Bell. I remember that one.
yes, Anthony Baez, Ramali Graham, Kimani Gray, Noel Polanco, Jason Tirado, Anthony Williams, Eric Garner, Mohamed Ba, Syed Vasil, Carlos Lopez Jr., Akai Gurley, Amadou Diallo, and Kadeen Torres. So those are the families.
All those families were there yesterday.
It was a historic march that happened yesterday in City Hall at 4 p.m. So now let's dive into the Afro-Latino experience.
Right.
So I grew up with this all my life. I'm a first-generation American, and my first language is Spanish. Grew up in Washington Heights with my Dominicans. Went to school in Washington Heights. And growing up, you see, I'm a dark-skinned beauty around a bunch of Dominicans who did not look like me. I struggled a lot with my identity. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized what Afro-Latino is. In my family, there's a lot of colorism. I just recently recognized that there was a lot of hate within myself, within my family. And it's just because of what we were taught, how we grew up.
Can we define colorism real quick?
Yes, absolutely.
Before we jump into it, it's not a new term, but it's a term rarely used because it's a type of prejudice within cultures. So, Latinos are all shades, even though it still surprises people how white some look and how dark some look, but we are all shades. And even within this culture, there is prejudice within one another. And when we say colorism, it's because we are talking about the shades, the colors within Latinos, within Spanish or Hispanic-speaking people. So that's what we just want to clarify colorism is. If there's any questions, again, as we're going through this, please post your questions, maybe even throw in an experience or two in there if you feel comfortable, because this is a conversation with us all. I think anybody, even still who is not Latino and still Black, that has dealt with understanding this in some level, because right within and even here in America.
Right. So not too long ago, Dominicans indictment was trending because there's this sentiment, and granted, I lived it, so I understand it. There's this sentiment that Dominicans don't claim their African ancestry. While it could be true for some, but there is a large group of us that do. I'm unapologetically Black, even though, Dominican is not a race. We understand that. A lot of Dominicans in the Dominican Republic, education is something that is whitewashed, right? So they have this belief that, they are from Spain. They are separated from our Haitian brothers and sisters. And that is prevalent through our community. It's prevalent through generations. There's all kinds of sayings, blanqueando, the race, behind your ear. There's all kinds of sayings that kind of lends to that testament. But there are a strong core of Latinx Dominicans who welcome, who embrace the diaspora. And then there's the few that the phrase, I'm not Black, I'm Dominican, comes. And that comes from a movie. I don't know if people are familiar. It's going to come to me. But the movie was like in the 80s. And I remember watching and the guy said, I'm not Black, I'm Dominican. And I think it was in jest. And ever since then, it kind of took a new thing. It went left. But it's something that is serious. It's something that I struggle with. It's something that I know within my family we struggle with. I know that we struggle with it within the community, and it's something that definitely is a struggle in Dominican Republic, especially with the anti-Haitianism that's going on. And but I want to ask you so the juxtaposition here, she's a light-skinned Latina and I'm a dark-skinned Latina. So
I do consider myself Black, and I never did before until I really started looking into my own family, because I have Puerto Rican and Panamanian. So my Panamanian is Black, my Puerto Rican is white. And I mean, when I say white, I mean blue-eyed, green-eyed, fair skin, and I know that they have a conquistador background. And then when I say Black, I mean, my dad is dark just like you. And I've always struggled because I lived with my mother and they were divorced when I was younger, struggled with identity of like, I know I don't fit in with the white crowd because I don't look white enough. Like I don't have features that they felt comfortable like opening up to me about. And then I didn't fit in with the Spanish too much because I didn't speak it well enough, which is a big issue too. Like my parents came here from their countries and they decided not to speak Spanish in the house. And I think my dad later on kind of hinted to me that he wanted to fit in, and it was sad. And I see that now as really tragic because he couldn't have his sense of self. He had to leave that in Panama and come here and in order to be accepted, assimilate and take away part of his culture.
Wow.
So even so much so, he never took me to Panama. I had to sneak myself to Panama behind his back in 2006. And that was, he was like, what are you doing over there? I was like, because you never took me here. I'm like, now I see all my family. I see, now I'm unapologetically Black. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know that I even had this side of me because it was so shunned when they came here, because it was like, no, let's come here and not, I don't want them to look at us like this. No, don't look at me like this. You know what I mean? And instead of, fighting that in a sense of saying, no, this is diverse, this is what America is, you're wrong. It's this type of like tiptoeing around white culture here, and white culture is this bubble that I see now with Trump. It really wants people to be in this like white America bubble where we have the barbecues and like that is not America. That's not the America that I even learned in school with the diversity, with Ellis Island and all these things. So it's this constant battle of identity for this country, and Latinos are always very easy. And correct me if I'm wrong. They're easy to jump towards the white side than the Black of this cultural bubble. So we know that it's diverse, but we're still picking sides in the sense of we're not remaining true to ourselves, and we're not bringing history to that, because there's a lot of history to that as to why we're doing that.
So it's interesting that you say that, because for me it was the opposite. So I was born here in New York, spoke nothing but Spanish, right? I didn't speak a lick of English. You can hear my accent every now and then.
I know a lot of Dominicans, even my ex-husband, who was like, if we spoke English in the house, it was a tragedy. You speak only Spanish in the house.
I didn't even know English existed. So, right?
And you were born here, and you had an accent.
Right? So I didn't even know it existed. I grew up with a Dominican. My mom is totally Dominican. She came here as a young adult. And I was her first child here. My older sister was born in the Dominican Republic, but I didn't know English existed. I spoke Spanish to like everything in Washington Heights. Everywhere I was surrounded, everyone spoke Spanish. So there was no need for us to speak English until I went to school. And when I went to school is when I kind of learned that I was not the same, right? I wasn't Black per se, and I wasn't Dominican per se. So when I went to kindergarten, I had a hard time. My mother did not play with ESL classes. We was not doing ESL classes. We speak Spanish in the house. You can speak English in school. And I had no idea. I'm in kindergarten. I walk in school and I had like people speaking to me in a language that I totally did not understand. So it took me a long time to kind of come to terms with like where it was almost alien, right? So by first grade, I'm speaking a little better, right? I had some difficulties with CH, sh, and SH, sh, right? So that was a problem. And so it was very interesting to me because with my Spanish speaking friends who were fair skinned, I wasn't Dominican. I was morenita, right? Maria Monito, my hair was, extra curly. And with my American Black friends, I didn't speak English, so I definitely wasn't Black. We didn't understand each other. So I was kind of caught in the middle. And in my family, it was interesting because we come in different shades. And I would say for my mother's children, I'm the darkest. All my other brothers and sisters are fair. But in my home, I kept hearing references to like, don't wear that, no te ponga eso, because you know you're dark and it's like too much attention. And so I grew up with this, you know, I was always wearing muted clothes. I have a closet full of black clothes. I have a like simple, because I didn't want to look too colorful because I was so dark lipstick. So young, I sing Celia Cruz. If you're familiar with Celia Cruz, Cuban singer, and I was the huge, because she was dark skinned and she used to sing and she had all these colorful clothes and this makeup, and I loved it. I loved Celia Cruz, but in my house, ella era la morena fea, and there's a song that I love it till this day, Bemba Colorada, which is red lips. In my house, as a dark-skinned person, wearing red lips was like, are you crazy? What is wrong with you? That's totally disgusting. So I had this complex for a long time. I till this day, I don't wear red lipstick. Like, you won't see me wearing red lipstick.
Knowing what we know now about what color does with your skin, how it makes it pop and beautiful, it's so sad. It's tragic that it was suppressing your, not only your style, but sense of self, of like being able to wear colors. And I was the same way. I have big lips. If I put red lipstick, it was there. And I would never wear red lipstick. When I do now, everyone's like, oh, I never noticed you wear. I was like, because I was not used to wearing. And even so, and my grandmother, when I was younger, she used to put my hair in wraps. And I didn't tell you this, but I did know Spanish first language until like 4. And then she moved back to Panama, and that was when everything just went, because she only knew Spanish.
Right.
But she used to dress me up and like this, and my mother thought it was cute until school, right? Until school age. Like, oh, look how cute. Okay, now you're going to school. Don't put all that. Then like, Tony, I didn't wear hoops and stuff because I kind of, it was like a forced assimilation. It wasn't me trying to experiment and look cute the way I thought that, and culturally that I thought it was pretty to myself, right?
So in my home, right, we were so Dominican. We had moños, right? I had a lot of hair. So I had like 5 moñitos. I was made fun of. Like, I was the total hick in school. Now, this is a dark-skinned kid in Washington Heights. Total hick. Total hick. God. So it did something to me as an adult. It forced me to learn my culture. So I was telling Jillian, transatlantic slave trade. I read about the Puerto Rican history, the Dominican history, the Trinidadian history, just so that I can have some sense of worth. Because in my family, it just seemed like to be, tú no eres morena, you're not black. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, what are we? We're not white. And in America, that's all it was. So me saying that I'm white or black, it was like, I'm Dominican, yes, but look at me. Like, Dominicans, because I speak like you know what I mean? Like, culturally, that's who I am. But when you look at me, like, physically, I'm black. But it was very difficult growing up. Until this day, there's some things that I still struggle with. And I was telling her, like, dating-wise, there's some things that I struggle with, that I purposely look for men of color, because for a long time, we were hearing blanqueando el race. Like, you have to date someone who's lighter than you, because you don't want dark-skinned babies. You don't want, darker babies. You want better-looking babies. Like as to say we're ugly, and that's something so that
all I wanted was dark babies.
But as a dark-skinned person, and then, growing up, I was here, like, I was so dark skinned, like, they had to put colors on me. So, like, I'm like, God, that's not cute. Like, that's so hurtful. And, you hear it, and it's funny to people in my family. And it's like, oh, we do it out of love. We call you morenita out of love. And I understand.
Can we talk about that real quick? Can we talk about the language used in Spanish culture that I've noticed that is kind of, some people I hear pretao, and that just means, like, darker, right? And also kind of connotates that you're just real tanned. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're tanned and not black. Like, that's not melanin, that's a tan. And that's not true. Like, we're all tanning differently. If you're a certain white or color, you tan red. Like, you get red first. Some of us don't get red. We just tan, or we just, and it really is this language. I even hear that in certain countries to say moreno is no good. They say negro. So can you clarify that?
So in Dominican Republic, which is a good thing, I traveled there every year as a youth and still do. We say morena, we say negro.
It's acceptable both ways, because I hear in certain countries they don't like to be called something.
I want to say, I think it depends on the tone. I've heard it like, so this is the thing. As a dark-skinned Dominican with lighter, fair family members, you tend to be sensitive when you hear moreno, negro, whatever the case is, and you have to kind of look at the actions behind it and who's saying it.
Right.
I think that's what I've taken from it.
Okay.
But I know it's been a term of endearment, like when they say mi negra, like they call my mother mi negra, and mi negro. So it's a term of endearment.
Yeah.
But there's times where like ese negro, ese, or they call them moreno, or they call them cocolo.
I haven't heard that one in a long time.
So Dominican cocolo will be black, and I want to say that's a derogatory term because we don't say cocolo is like what's up cocolo? We say like, oh, that cocolo is whatever the case is. So the terms negra, morenita, it depends on who's saying it and the tone in which they say it. But there are terms like and how they're saying it, and you see how they're saying it and how they're using it for you to kind of determine,
There's a commenter that said, I've always wanted to be Priscilla Dyer. I said I always wanted to be darker growing up. And I did too, actually. I always felt like my skin was so in between. I was like, like different shades. I'm here darker, lighter here. And I just wish I was my dad's color. Like, I just wish I was that beautiful color. Like, it was this weird identity crisis. And because I had features like my dad, but I didn't have his color. But then at the same time, I'll show you a picture of my dad and my grandmother and stuff. If you go on my personal Instagram, I'll send that. But like, I just felt like it was this, like, I wanted to fit in more on that side for some reason. I felt more connected because I felt a disconnect from the whiter side, from the way they treated my grandmother when we were around. Like, sometimes, yes, lighter skinned Latinos can pass as white, and they get different jobs because they can pass as white. They get loans because they can pass as white, and they get conversations because they can pass as white. So real quick, a story. My mother, after divorcing my dad, dated an Italian. And when they didn't see me, they only saw her. She looks definitely not like, she looks a lot whiter. They would be like talking about the Mexicans doing the work in the yards. Like, oh yeah, they don't live around here. And she told me, and she told them, don't ever talk like that in front of me. And I said, but Mom, they're talking like that in front of you because you're passing. And you have to see that the experiences that you're getting are different than the ones I'm even getting. Because even so, I get pulled over. They think I'm Mexican. They don't even, I got pulled over like a year ago because a cop wanted to see if I was a legal driver, he said. So, I mean, I never had fully this sense of like, yes, I feel full American, and I'm born here and everything. And, I don't even speak that good Spanish. Like, I'm dating a guy from Ecuador, and he says my Spanish is so bad.
So this person, Albany Coffee, thank you. She says, yes, it depends on the tone, but
here,
but it is still derogatory because it still implies you're black and different. That we know,
Right.
But and I want to say yes.
Like, to even make that distinction, why do we have to even point out in the story that the person's black, right? It's just a person. We're talking about A and B. Why do we have to show color? Because we're trying to say, oh, that person's this color, and then right? So I feel you where you're going with that.
I totally get it. And again, in familial situations, that's also, because you got some family who's shady too.
And Enzo here said something here.
When you get the cédula in Santo Domingo, there's no black as Indio.
Can you talk about that?
Okay, so in Santo Domingo, so I wasn't born in Dominican Republic, but my sister, my older sister, my mother, my entire family before me was. And a cédula is your birth certificate, like your identification, your Dominican identification is your cédula. Mm-hmm. And in Santo Domingo, though, there isn't a black. Is Indio, is white, is Indio, and I want to say it's mulatto. If I'm not mistaken.
That's what she said, mulatto. Yeah,
okay.
Mulatto,
yes, right. So those are the only like color combinations in Dominican Republic. But there's a history behind that. There's a huge history behind that.
We're gonna talk about history in a different episode. Yeah, please stay tuned
for that. But I want to touch really briefly. I just want to touch on it because because my family, because of where I sit between my family, where they're Dominican and here, I had mentioned to her that in Dominican Republic, like the black in itself in America is a different cultural experience for Caribbean people. So when I say that, I'm talking, and I'm not making excuses. So let's clarify that. I'm not making excuses for Dominicans, Cubans, Puerto Ricans, and anybody who jumped off the boat, in those areas. The Black cultural experience in America is totally different than the Black Caribbean experience in the islands. So when a person from the Caribbean steps foot into America and someone tells them, because they don't identify as Black, as I said, someone tells them they're Black, they're naturally going to push back because what they understand as Black is a Black American experience as opposed to a Black Caribbean experience. So that's why I believe now
there's a disconnect.
There's a disconnect because we understand that we're descendants of Africans, but their separation comes when you start saying Black, I want to say. And it's just because of the American experience as opposed to the Caribbean experience. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. I'm just saying that's how my family and some people that I've communicated with, that's how they understand it.
And I had to actually point that out to some of my family recently. And I said, hey, look, when you came here, there was a whole history of stuff that you weren't aware of. When you immigrated here, there is a whole history of the Black people that were here already that they're dealing with. And that's why now they're dealing with protests because they don't understand it, right?
So I'm sorry, really quick, because in these Caribbean nations, they've had those experiences as well, Dominicans, Haitians, etc. And we just have to learn how to marry and learn to share because we have those same experiences. Dominican Republic, I can go into Trujillo and his half Haitian self and his self-hate, and he's Haitian, and the Perejil massacre and all of that against the Haitians, having himself.
No, I'm talking about like segregation and things here. Like they didn't even but they didn't even know. They came here, they were so young. And they didn't know what's happening here. And they were too young even back then to know what was happening in their country because they were just babies, our parents, when they came.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So that the experiences of people from the diaspora, I want to say they're similar in different places. It's just the hand that levies a punishment, may look a little different or punishment.
But over here, it's this, like, I hate to say ass kissing. Towards
we can curse here, right? Look, yeah. I'm trying to hold my mouth.
It's just, no, because it really is like they rather kiss the ass here than over there because they're coming here for the money and the American dream, right? Like, so when you're trying to get the money and the company and you want to get the dream, you're not gonna fight the power, so to speak, here, right? You rather and I feel like from what I've seen, that's where a lot of the I'm talking now Puerto Rican side because there's a lot of colorism happening there that I've seen more because I know more on my Puerto Rican side, and I feel like it's this this is a free country, right? But then we still have to tippy toe around this white company and what. No, we have to look, and that's what really bothers me.
In Dominican Republic, they actually believe that the streets of New York are paved in gold. Okay, so they believe once they get off the plane, they'll be raining money on them. So they are ready to get here. They'll do whatever it takes to get here. They will come up with any scam, any excuse, whatever to get here. And it just has to do with the oppression, the amount of oppression, I guess, the amount of poverty that there is in those, because when they paint America to these places, it's like the land of opportunity, the American dream is this, is that, is that. They don't realize that it's still work. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's still work. So
I feel like they lean towards more,
and they see that on TV, they see the Black Americans on TV, they're deemed the criminals. We're constantly getting arrested. In the movies, we're the, robbers, we're the bad guys, we're the rape, all of
and
these things.
Easy for them to associate. Right. It's easy for them to say, okay, you know what? I'm here. I'm going to support the people giving me money and this and that.
Well, not even that. They want to disassociate from all the negative that they've seen. So I'm not going to step into a place where I see that you're talking badly about these people and their murders. I don't want to be associated. Birds of a feather flock together. That's, so you don't want to be associated with that. So when you see on TV, like in the Dominican Republic, the propaganda is real, but when you see like the shows and all the TV shows and all the things that they put in, how they portray African Americans and Black Americans, you seriously want to disassociate yourself from that. You don't want to come into something and be like, okay, I'm going to associate with the criminals and the bad guys, because that's how they're portrayed.
So but they're allowing it. They're in a way they don't want to know more. It's easier for them because the white people are giving them the jobs and the money and the loans. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's not that it's just easier for them to, like, for example, like, I remember when I'm in certain spaces, I have to always like, are you okay? I always I'm that type of person that I had to be like, you're okay, I'm not offending you, right? I'm not offending. But why is it that I'm always have to be so okay? And then when it comes to like interaction with Black people, oh, who cares? Like, you can say how you feel. Why is it this like tippy toeing and ass kissing around white people? And it's this colonial mindset of where, they're providing for us. They're our saviors. They're the ones who we're coming here for the money and they're giving us the jobs. No, you're working for that job. You're making the money.
Hi, so welcome. Thank you to everybody who's on.
Yes.
Are there any questions?
Yes, put any questions if you like, because we're gonna do 3 episodes, and we're gonna get into more history of our countries in the other episodes, and even have guest speakers possibly. But it really pains me right now to see what's happening with with a lot of the people not standing up right now with the Black Lives Matter, the Latinos specifically, not standing up for Black Lives Matter movement because they don't understand, or they don't this. It's like literally the same language as white racists in America. So we have to really understand and examine ourselves. Are we aligning with this bubble that these white Americans really want so bad, certain white Americans that want so bad to not have this diverse country that I thought where we're stepping into a diverse country? That's what I always imagine, right? Like, oh, we're so diverse and we're in New York City and Ellis Island and learning about this in school. But then you go like 2 states down and it's like, they look at you crazy. You know what I mean? Like, so
I will say this, that New York there's a question I'm going to get to in a minute, but I want to say that New York is really a unique place. Having traveled to different places or whatever the case is in America, New York City, not the state of New York, New York City is really, really unique. And I say that because there really is a diverse amount of people in a small amount of space. And we have no choice but to kind of get to know other people, other nationalities, ethnicities, et cetera. Whereas if you go somewhere else, like I was living in Georgia for 10 years, in Columbus and Atlanta. And the amount, I didn't run into, like, I had to physically go look for Dominicans. I had to find these people. So New York is a really diverse place because of that. But so there was a question that said, anyone help y'all through the journey, or did you find out yourself that you're both Black? You go first.
That's a
really great question.
I want to say Black VegFest help me. Okay, I'll put it out there. No, when I didn't have a good relationship with my father's side because of the divorce, and even though he was so passionate about Panama, and I always felt like I didn't know many Panamanians. I grew up in Manhattan, by the way, in the Lower East Side, right? And so it's Spanish. Predominantly, Spanish, but a lot of Puerto Ricans. Not many Panamanians. When I moved my ass to Brooklyn in 2009, I had my first Panamanian boyfriend. He was darker than dark. I was like, this was a Panamanian? Oh, okay, they look like my family. And I didn't even know. There was a whole culture of Panamanian people in Brooklyn. There's a festival every September where I was like, this is great. I was like, I was like so happy that I can get to feel part of myself again in the way that I was like, okay, an identity, but I was still very like, but am I that Black? Am I this? It's a lot of these questions, self-identity questions that come up. And when you have melanin, and that's it. And so it was that journey of like, okay, you know what? I want to be unapologetically Black. I want to not be like, yeah, I'm Panamanian, but it's just my dad that's dark. It's just, it's just that maybe And I have Puerto Rican side of my family that's dark too. That was the Indian Taino and the other types of Indians out there. But we always thought, oh, they were just a fluke, a genetic fluke on the Puerto Rican side. You know what I mean? Like, so when I got with Black VegFest and I turned vegan and I had Sabrosa Vegana as the business, I said, my first and always mission is to give back and uplift the community. And always here has been the Black community, because we know that is the disparity here, right? And that's not it's not rocket science, right? So I said, you know what? Spanish people are dying, Black people are dying of diseases. I want to give back to my community in this way, and Black VegFest aligned with that. And I said, you know what? Unapologetic Black Wale is. At first, it took me back. I was like, okay. I remember when I first saw him at one of the meetings, he had the big, then I was like, okay, what is this? Are you from Africa? I thought he was born in Africa with his name and everything. I was like, so I really clung to the mission and for the community, the mission of self-identity, the mission of understanding intersectionality and all these things. And I said, you know what? I don't care if I get heat from my other side of my family, because they already get heat from me for being vegan. So I might as well just throw in Black VegFest on top of that. You know what I mean? And that was my journey of really like understanding that. And when I went to Panama too, like I said, I had to sneak myself to Panama behind. My dad never took me there, but he took his white Jewish his wife Jewish wife over there before he took me. That's a whole nother issue of self-identity. But you know, I always felt like, hey, why not take me, and why do I have to like suffer and not know my own culture? Are you scared that I'm going to move my ass to Panama, which I want to do as well, eventually buy a house over there? But it really is trying to find like, and I don't get me wrong, I love Puerto Rico, I love Puerto Ricans, I love that. It's just that I grew up with that, and it was already like I saw it was Americanized. It wasn't Puerto Rican culture. It was Americanized Puerto Rican culture, in which the assimilation was so real that everyone moved and had their little white houses, picket fence houses, and nobody really had this. Puerto Rico was just a place they go visit for vacation. Yeah, it was just where we go to visit for vacation. Oh, there's a hurricane, they'll be fine. I literally heard Puerto Rican family, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. So it's a disconnect even from that country, because we want to be so part of Puerto Rican country, but when in reality, the Commonwealth is not commonly distributed, right? Commonwealth means commonly distributing wealth, and it's not. So we have to recognize that America is only accepting when you're here for working for them. And there's a whole other thing. That's a whole other.
So did anybody help me through the journey of finding out or realizing that I'm Black? So my skin kind of told me that I was Black. That's me being really funny. But honestly, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna share this with you. I was one of these Dominicans who said, I'm Dominican, I'm not Black. Mm-hmm. You know, I was that person till about my late 20s. Yeah. Right? So in my 30s, I had some things happen to me, relationship-wise, etc., that kind of opened my eyes. Like, I'm Black. Like, you know, like I'm blacky black. You know what I mean? Like that. Like, not that you know, like that was that moment. Like, I broke up with someone, and it was just like I was in an interracial relationship, and it was a real intense breakup. But it was like, at that moment, I realized, because I was in a fantasy world, I lived a good life. I was, you know, living the life. I was doing the most. And I was really submerged into a culture that wasn't mine, right? And then after that, we broke up. It was like, I took a moment, and I'm like, you know, I'm Black. Like, I'm really Black. Like, I'm like, I can't pass for white, you know? And so in that moment, I think is when I really started to delve into like really reading about my people, like Dominicans, really learning about my family, really learning about transatlantic slave trade, because I wanted to know more. Like, it wasn't just what schools was telling me. I wanted to learn more. So that's when I think I started to realize and try to understand. And then my experiences coming up, like I really had a hard time trying to figure out like where I stood as Black and okay, I'm okay.
Keep going. I got you.
Okay. So that for me was okay. So we can see it. So that for me was where I did a lot of learning. I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of soul searching. I did a lot of traveling. I did a lot of, just me. And I know my skin color was Black, but now embracing the whole African diaspora of Black is happening in my 30s. And I just, I had moments.
You know what you just reminded me of? I never on the censuses put myself as white or Black. I would put Native American just to fuck with them. And I was like, I'm Native American because guess what? South America, Central America, and North America are American, and I'm native to one of those, so I'm Native American. I don't know what white you're talking about. European, you should just put European background. If you don't know what your European background, because it's so far, that's your fault. And neither do I. So I'm just putting Native. So I didn't even know where I fit because my dad always would say, "You're Panamanian Indian. Look at my hair. You're Panamanian Indian." I'm like, Dad, not even the Panamanian Indians look that as dark as you. So I think you need to do your genetic, and then I got into genetics too in school. So I got to take my 23andMe. I can't wait to take that.
I'm so scared about
Me too.
I refuse.
I think everybody's a little bit scared to take.
I'm going to wing it. I don't think I'm going to give my saliva, my blood to anybody to figure out where I came from. I'm going to wing it. I'm just going to be like, I know I'm Black.
I'll sacrifice myself.
Somewhere on the African continent, my people from there, and we're going to roll with that.
Yeah.
So, plant-based cowboys, I appreciate these conversations, y'all. White ally here, learning and growing on how to be better. Oh, all
Thank you for tuning in and just listening.
Yes, allyships of our.
Yes, speaking of allies, we have on our blackvegfest.com website or .org, website, 7 terms of allyship, and it's a form. If you can read it and sign it, we would appreciate that so that we can be in contact with you on how we can work together in building this understanding and education and community. And Kim Bay, we are going to put this on Instagram, recording it.
Her question was, is it possible to record these conversations, these sessions?
Yes.
I can't attend them all because of work. This conversation is fascinating. I don't want to miss it. Oh, thank you. Thanks. There'll be more of these.
Yeah, every Wednesday, or we're going to do it Sunday.
One of these days. So the 7 points of allyship for the white vegan community in defense of Black lives. Visit our website, blackvegfest.org. Please fill it out. Connect with us. We
ask us questions anytime. That if you think there are topics that they confuse you, that you want more clarification on, let us know. Because we have a whole team of such a diverse team as well.
Priscilla Dyer, she has stated, there has to be a shift in your mindset to understand the plight of Black people in the U.S. I was born in the UK, moved to Jamaica, the land of my parents' birth, then came here to America. Yeah, that's true. I think people have to learn how to step out of themselves and step into the shoes of other people, ethnically, culturally, etc., to kind of understand.
Empathy. That's real empathy.
I think I'm radical in some of the things, so I won't say it out loud, but there's a lot of people in America who are not empathetic and they're just violent. They understand violence, so at some point you have to defend yourself. But anyway.
Adam is talking about like how we talking about code switching. Yes. Oh, I do it sometimes. I'll admit it. I play both cards.
You have to read the question so they know what we're talking about.
Okay, sorry. So Adam, you want to read it?
So Adam says, I really appreciate how you share the dynamic of having to code switch and tipping song. That's very, well, you know what? I'm going to say this. I work in a place predominantly others. Right? And so as a woman of color, I have to be able, because, I can't really act like how I want to act in my place of employment, right? Because they'll be like, who is this person, right? So, you take on this proper persona so that they feel safe. No, well, even in person, so that they feel safe because they're uncomfortable with this and loud and you expressing yourself, or we're too I can't be passionate about certain things because it's like we're almost attacking them. We feel like, we're yelling or whatever the case is. So yeah, the code switch is real. It's like we have to have three faces, especially in the Black community. It's like who we are with our family, who we are with our friends, and who we are at work, or, or in public, not even friends in public, or who we are at work. So yeah,
I have a quick story of that one. I went a long time ago upstate with someone who is Jewish, and she let her kid run around everywhere, and we were like walking around, and there was other people's properties, and she was like, yeah, let them play there. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable playing other people's property, because I never had to. I always felt like, no, like you're not welcome here. Like when I lived in New Jersey, I moved to South Amboy. I don't know if anybody heard of South Amboy, New Jersey. And when I moved there were no Hispanics. The Hispanics were in Perth Amboy. Okay, so if you went to South Amboy, they looked at you like, why are you not in Perth Amboy? You stay in Perth Amboy. So my mom bought a house in South Amboy, and we were like the first Latinos there. And the people across the street didn't even let my brother and I play with their kids. They would not let their brother. They would say, no, don't play with them. Don't play with those people. And my brother is lighter than me. So even then, it was this sense of like, oh, we got to make sure that we are like, don't put any Spanish music loud. Let them play their music, rock music loud, and their hockey. And it was like their culture was okay to be loud and proud, right? But we are not allowed to be loud and proud of our culture. So it was I don't remember anything from my Puerto Rican side, no Spanish, salsa. Also, they were very Christian, so it wasn't like part of what they did. That's a whole nother thing too. But
another issue.
But it wasn't, even when they wanted to do like regular, like, and they still like to dance salsa, but it was very like muted, yeah. And so it really is this like learning to like, because, oh, but they give us the jobs, because they do this and they do that. So when we say to support Black businesses, when we say we're bringing back the diversity that it should be, we shouldn't have to like be like, please, we want to be nice with you even if you're wrong. You know what I mean? Especially with the police. What's happening now, everyone's like, oh, but the police are supposed to help you. Yeah, so that means you don't keep them accountable? Like, there is zero accountability here. So it has to be it has to be accountability. It has to be, if we really are about diversity and about all that, it has to be across the board. And it has to start with us too. We cannot be like this tiptoeing. And that's where I told myself I'm not going to be no longer that type of person.
So I'm glad you said that, because I want to end this with some ways that Latinos and Black, well, we are Black. I hate that so much. Every time I see that, and Latinos and Blacks, and it's like, what do you mean? Like, aren't we are? But in any case, I want to like marry the two, find ways where we can kind of come together, come to terms, like list some things that we can do to kind of usher in our people to feel welcomed and to kind of feel like they belong. Because I know there's a small percentage of Latinos who feel like, well, they don't accept me anyway, so why should I do anything? So I kind of want us to dial it back and bring it and be like, there's some things that you can do. It doesn't have to be you marching in the street. It doesn't have to be, it can be
having hard conversations
with your family, with your racist family, because Latinos are racist. Not all, but have conversations with your family.
Have conversations.
Supporting businesses, Black businesses, certain things that,
and educating ourselves, Googling. Not many people are Googling anymore, but they don't even want to. They don't even. It's just a news feed scroll, and that's it. Yeah. We really, you know what I did? Like about 2 years ago now, or maybe longer. I think it was longer. I was in school like longer than that. I went to the African burial ground in Wall Street. If you haven't gone to the African burial ground, whatever color you are, go to the African burial ground and get a personal tour. That will make you understand, even in New York City, where you considered the North was free slaves, it was not. So, I mean, that right there, I left, everybody was crying on that tour, because it was just educating yourself. I had to educate myself as well.
Your family, like your children, your offspring, the people that you come around, the people that you encounter. If you hear or see something that's is factually incorrect, or something that, it's not true, say something. Like, we expect people, like, I see all these things to be quiet. Like, you see these things and it's like, why didn't they say something? say something, speak on it, because we are family. We're here.
Yes.
This is an experience. We're all here. We're going through this together, and we want to make it as pleasant for us as for all as possible. And that can only happen if we work together. So that's one of the things. I think education is important, but it's also community communication. Not just education, it's communication, because you can have all the education in the world and you keep it to yourself and you're not, discussing with anybody. Just it does nothing. So, is there another question?
There's some comments.
Oh, some comments. Can you imagine if this is Adam? Hi, Adam. Can you imagine if the tables are turned? Like if we started showing how unsafe we feel around them? You are so right. Diversity is key. Absolutely. I mean, I think of Black Mirror, certain episodes, like certain things I see now that show on Netflix, Black Mirror. I'm like, this is so Black Mirror, like so.
And the movie Get Out was good.
So like,
that for me, that I know, like, I want to see more things like that because it shows how uncomfortable,
See, this is the thing, because we're watching it, but we want the other people to watch it. Like there's the Jane Elliott's and the Tim Wise's. Like all my Black friends share it. I don't think my white friends share it. They don't even know who they are. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why communication is important. That's why talking to different people. That's why having a diverse amount of people so that you can share this information, because there's certain things that's on my news feed that other people are not going to see, and my friends and things that they share with me that the friends that I have won't see. Like, I know
positive. Always share positive. There's always negative to everything. There's one thing that always gets me with people that are like police apologists, I call it. There's bad apples. There's that. Okay, so you only look at the positive, right? Only look at the positive and share it with this too. Don't look at the looting and be like, oh, but look at the looting. No, forget the negative like you do everything else and uplift the positive. Share the positive, because there are forces out there trying to make this look like an evil, negative entity, and it's not.
Regardless, but
right. So it's our part to always push positive, always make sure we are about uplifting the community. Even if you don't understand it, oh, look, positive, uplift, and share.
Oh, thank you for joining us, guys. I don't want to be abrupt. We have about 2 more minutes, but I want to direct you guys to our website, blackvegfest.org, because there's a lot of information on there. We also have a lot of merchandise on there that we want you to purchase, like this beautiful mug.
Oh, nice. And I use this as a chef.
Okay, so we have
thermal.
Yes.
Thermal here. I love it. Yeah. Because mine were beat up, and I was like, I need to buy these myself. So these are great. It's a way to support. It's also a good conversation starter when people come to the house. Oh, what is that? Oh, it's Black VegFest. You don't know about them?
There you go.
Okay. So it's a really good way to support one another. The festival, I don't think we're having it this year, right? But stay tuned. We will have it. We were going to have it this year in the Bronx and in Brooklyn.
Yes.
But be a part of the June 14th march, or the food distribution we're going to be doing in Harlem. There's going to be a lot more things that we are a part of throughout the year to still stay in touch with the community despite this pandemic that has slowed everything down.
And I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Jillian.
Sabrosa Vegana. What's your Instagram?
Sabrosavegana. Not .com. I have the website is down right now. But also my personal one, Panarican Vegan, if you want to see.
You can find me on my IG. I don't remember. It's Steph, STEPAP _honey 007.
We'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, we'll be tagged. And it was amazing talking. And we're gonna have more of these conversations.
This will be a series, and we're gonna probably talk more historical stuff, right? In the next few series.
Yeah. Nothing too heavy, but just some information, some background on some things. But it was amazing. Thank you for everyone who
thank you for joining.
All the questions, and it was a pleasure, and I hope